Well, you can see how much thread locker is on those threads, but with a little bit of heat destroying that thread locker and expanding the aluminium, they came out quite easily, but they absolutely would not shift or drift when the barrels were still attached and the heads were still intact. There was clearly an awful lot of torque on there holding everything together, so drilled them out, pulled the bolts out afterwards. Just need to clean this up. Got a new barrel on order, and then we can get it all back together. So I've got the new ignition barrel, that's just arrived. We're a few days later now, so we're going to get this all reassembled. But yeah, chose to replace the old one because it was just so worn out. The key wouldn't stay in. Obviously this is brand new. The actual lock works, and it's quite smooth. So been cleaning this up. Just need to clean out the threads for the pinch bolts, including the bolts. So that's why I've just pulled out a tap and die. It's actually these in exactly the same way as the shear bolts were, are M8 by 1 1/4. So conveniently I found in my box of bolts a couple of socket cap, whatever you call them, hex socket, of the right size, M8 by 1 1/4, and they've got really conveniently just the right size heads on them to sink down through the ignition barrel block. So they're near perfect. I don't think they need to be any longer than that, so, and if they do, I've actually got some longer ones that I can cut down or not. So I'm just going to clean these bolts up and clean the threads out, and clean the threads out there because there's a little bit of blue Loctite left in there, and then we can start reassembling all this. So this is of course the repair of the ignition, or the replace of the ignition barrel on my 2001 Yamaha Fazer. These bolts that I pulled out of my bin of spares, I actually removed off a, I think it's a 1984, 3, something like that, Honda CX650. So these are 40 plus years old. And I think I've already cleaned them up, and I broke the bike up and parted it out, kept all the fixings. Yeah, these don't need any cleaning, I've already cleaned them all up, they look pretty good. Just need to chase these threads out because they do have some thread locker in them, but I need to make sure I go careful. can feel it binding slightly, but I think that is just the thread locker. Yeah, you can see the thread lock on the end of the tap there. These pinch bolts are going to need a little bit of a clean up. You can see there's a bit of aluminium oxide on them. Threads in the yoke are pretty good, but let's give these a once over. I like to use these split dies because they're really good for chasing threads as well as cutting. They work a treat on things like this. Well, the pinch bolts cleaned up really nicely and they're ready to refit. The two bolts that I found to replace the shear bolts are just perfect. Well, they're slightly too long, I need to shorten them, but they've got this really nice 8mm socket cap on the end. They're really chunky, but what is perfect is the way they fit into the recess of the ignition block. It's almost like they were made to fit, apart from the length. Okay, time to put it all together. Now, I'm not going to Loctite these bolts in, for the simple reason that I just want to make sure everything's working fine. I can always back them out at a later date and pop them back in. I just want to make sure everything's working fine first. Just going to fit these risers on loosely for now. I can always nip them up when they're on the bike. Didn't even notice this before. You've actually got a little hole there, can you see? Get it in the light. For a split pin. That wasn't on there when I took them off, so I shall refit that. These are 14mm. Right, this should be ready to go back on now. I think I've cleaned this yoke to death, unfortunately. I've put them on backwards. Spanner back on that. So yeah, I've cleaned this yoke to the point where pretty much any paint that was on it has all come off. And it's probably going to need coming off and giving a bit of a better clean, and give it a bit of a spray with some more grey paint. But yeah, slightly annoying. Anyway, let's do these pinch bolts up. 6mm Allen head. Should be good. Yeah, you can easily get to the nuts underneath to nip those up. All the bolts for here are pretty clean, so I'm just going to stick a bit of WD-40 in there to help everything, preserve everything, but I'm not going to use Loctite or anything. Is that right? Is that meant to sit on top of there? I think it is, isn't it? That one? Not sure now, you know. I think that might need to go underneath. Maybe I need to take this yoke back off. Right, okay, no, I've checked and they do definitely root over the top, so yeah, probably just need to... It does seem a bit tight though, weirdly. Keep things still. Anyway, that's right, but what we need to do is put this steering nut on. Let me just check the torque spec on that. Wow, 112 Newton meters. 112? 110. Good grief. Well, okay then. We need to leave these a little bit loose. Like I said, I can, I think, get under there, so let me go and get a 14. Okay, seems about right. can always make adjustments later, but if the caps go a little ski-whiff, you can just undo one bolt and torque up the other. And I'll need to position these handlebars later anyway, because almost certain they're not going to be in the right position for me. Didn't mark them or anything before I took them off, didn't see any point. Right, I just need to feed the new cable down and round and into this box. So I'm absolutely sure, to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter as long as you find a suitable route. There was a kind of a Christmas tree cable tie on there originally, but yeah, that'll do, it's not going to go anywhere. Red to red, and in this case black to pink. Clipped in just nicely. And job done. At some point I'm going to need to do something with this. You can see somebody, previous owner of some sort, has attacked the wiring loom, and it's just all awful. No idea what that is. Presumably someone took all that sheathing off just to get to something to do a bit of a botch repair. I'm all for botch repairs, but try and finish it off. So yeah, I might need to get in there with a bit of tape and give that a bit of protection. Can't leave it like that. I'll do that in another video though, because that definitely does need doing. But what I've got to do to get to it really properly is take this rail off. That just holds the coils, and then I should be able to get to that whole stretch of loom. I've literally just put a bit of tape there because there was a bare wire, and you can see I think someone's probably come in and attached some sort of earthing point badly. So yeah, don't look too tricky. So someone was being really lazy. Well, I'm still keeping you in suspenders. Will it run? I could easily test it now, but there won't be any fuel in the carbs, almost certainly. So need to get the tank back on, connect up the fuel sender and the fuel pipe. That's pretty much it, job done. We'll get the bolt in first and then we'll prop it up so we can connect everything up. Right, future reference. Do this with an empty tank. Be a darn sight easier. Okay, just a few simple steps. Push the fuel pipe back on. Slide the clip back on. Turn on the fuel tap and check for leaks. And then just connect up the fuel sender. Okay, so just fitting the front mounting bolt. Just to help get it started, because it can be a bit fiddly. Job done. Well, I didn't show you me filming this little bit because, to be honest, I couldn't really get in there with my tools and hands and light and camera all at the same time. And all I needed in the end was a 14mm ring spanner. And I even fitted the split pins. There she is. New ignition barrel and block all fitted, no wires sticking out or broken. We just need to see if she runs now. What are the chances that I put it all the way back together without actually having tested that it works? Well, the only downside now is I've got two keys which I've colour coded white and red for the front and the rear, just like your lights to the front and the rear. This one for the ignition barrel and this one for the fuel filler cap and the rear seat. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you found that useful. I've got a couple more jobs to do on this Fazer. I need to take that tank back off to sort that wiring loom out, and I've got an air filter to fit. And then we can get back to the Honda VF750F engine and its reassembly. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and I will see you next time.